Monday. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew, and I have my partner here today because we have things to talk about with the unemployment number.
You're right, Jay. I usually, as you know, do the quarterly ELCO reports, which are coming up in a few weeks. But something happened a couple weeks ago we need to talk about today.
But just a reminder, 10, 22, 12, 1 week from today, comment letters have to be in on the Basel III proposals. And Ed, you and I put together a comment letter that's available on our website. We urge everyone to either use our letter to say they support Dr. Ed and I's opinions on Basel III and our alternative capital proposals, or get comments in, especially how it affects your bank.
Couldn't agree more. This is really a threat to community banks if it's passed the way it's currently formulated. We really need to change it. I think you'll enjoy reading our letter. I've seen some other independent letters, Jay. They look very good.
Let's look at unemployment claims, because we had an interesting piece of news this past Thursday that unemployment claims for the first time dropped below that 350,000 threshold. When you go back in time and look at this, is that they constantly remained in that 350,000 zone and below during the uptick of the economy in 2005 through 2007. And you can see, of course, as the Great Recession hit and the financial crisis, that those unemployment claims moved up, but have since come down with the moderating in the economy. So this, even though it's 1 week, is a good piece of news that we got below there.
It's a great piece of news, there's no question, but I would urge our listeners to realize it's 1 week.
That's right.
I think we need 4 or 5 or 6 weeks of those before we can say it's a trend. I'd rather talk about something else that happened a few days ago. With respect to the QE3 that we've heard so much about and its impact on the interest rates and unemployment, there's now a new rule of thumb regarding what happened with QE1, QE2, and to another extent the term extension, or what you know to be Operation Twist. The Fed announced recently, Jay, that the combined effect is they grew GDP 3% over the last 2 years because of QE 1 and 2, and it created 2 million jobs. Now, recall, bankers, that GDP is your core deposit growth numbers. It's your asset. It drives your asset growth, including loans and especially deposits. So anytime you see a positive increase in GDP, you can expect more growth, organic growth for your bank. Next slide, Jay. But now a rule of thumb is coming from these QE1s, QE2s, and QE3Js that bankers are going to have to know, just like they know their Social Security number. Here's what we think happens with QE3. The Fed's econometric model, they call it their workhorse model, that if you increase LSAP, large-scale asset purchases, by $500 billion, you're going to lower the 10-year Treasury, Jay, by 20 basis points. And in 2 years, you're going to drop the unemployment rate 0.2%. Next slide. I want to now switch our attention. If this is what happens with large-scale asset purchases, what happened on the first Friday in October that roiled the markets, created a controversy with respect to Republicans and Democrats, when the unemployment rate had a very steep drop from 8.1 to 7.8%. What do we think about it at Seafried and Brew? Click it again, Jay. And your scribblings are going to ruin part of the readings, but this is a big drop 1 month, there's no question, but it's not unprecedented. Since World War II, that's happened, Jay, 31 times. Underscore that for our listeners. It is the largest in over a year, almost a year and a half, but it has happened 31 times in the past, so it's not unprecedented. From the August to January period in 2010-2011, the unemployment rate fell by 0.5% and 0.8 percentage points respectively. So there are big drops in unemployment. It does happen occasionally. Now, what caused this unemployment rate to drop so much? Is it methodology? Is it the real economy? What is it? I suspect it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics seasonal adjustment factor. And here's why I'm suspicious. When you pull professional economists, they thought, as you can see on this chart, that the September unemployment rate, some of them thought it would be as low as 8%, but only about 4% of the professional economists who work in the U.S. economy thought that would occur. Most people thought it would be 8.1%. A lot of people thought it would be 8.1%. About 38% of the polling thought it would be 38%. And many thought it would stay at 8.2, almost 48%. So the vast majority, Jay, had the rate somewhere between 8.1 and 8.2. Nobody had it at 7.8. Nobody. And these people understand seasonal adjustment. This just shows you, Jay, how we're having trouble with unemployment. These lines, I hope they're visible on our website, represent the 1948 to 1949 business cycle, the 1981 to 82 business cycle, and so on, with the dotted line being the black line being our most recent unemployment episode. And at the origin, this is the first year, the day the recession begins, and how in all the business cycles you'll see a drop in unemployment, negative drop in unemployment for about 18 months, and then smooth, steady growth. Now the bad news, Jay, is the yellow, green, and red are 1991 and backwards. And you can see they have the highest growth rates. The blue and black lines are our most recent recessions, and notice they have the lowest rebound unemployment rate. So it's not shocking to me that we're having more and more trouble getting people back to work. We could name all kinds of villains for this, Jay. China, job loss to China, technology. Go to any airport in the country and you'll see far fewer workers and more machines checking in people and so forth. Next slide. But I want to talk about the seasonal adjustment. Here is the unemployment rate, U3, which is the official rate, which is the black line. The blue line is U6, which is all unemployment you could possibly imagine, from discouraged workers to part-time workers. It's the one everyone talks about when they talk about true unemployment. And you can see, Jay, in 1995, unemployment was 6% for U3 and around 11% for U6. You can see what happened in the Great Recession, the lagged effect of unemployment. And unemployment is coming down. Now recall, the September rate is, hit the clicker one more time. Oh, go back one more time. For some reason we didn't get this. Remember, the seasonally adjusted rate for this point is 7.8. The seasonally unadjusted rate is over 8%. So I really think, Jay, the seasonal adjustment, especially for college students going back to work, is an issue. What could be the issue? It could be that the same number of college students went back to work, but many of them kept their jobs. They didn't want to give up their jobs. They're working and going to class at the same time because of economic tightness at their home. Their parents might have said, I'm sorry, but you need to get some spending money on your own. So those students who live near where they go to school, they may have kept their part-time jobs for the summer, and that's reflected in the numerator, and then the seasonal adjustments reflected in the denominator, which could make the unemployment rate a little bit more positive than it really is. So when you look at unadjusted rates, you can see the effect of the unemployment rate. I'm going to return this back to you. You're seeing some noise in the housing start numbers.
Yeah, even though if you look at it graphically, Ed, and we all know going back to the whole housing bubble, but just talk a little bit about, we've gotten up to right around over 700,000 in terms of overall starts. Your feeling is permits and starts, we need to really see that up at the 900,000 level. It
is, and all our listeners know the impact of QE 1 and 2 on housing prices. The QE 1 and QE 2 are designed for a number of outcomes, and one of the outcomes is the increase in stock prices, commodity prices, and housing prices. And what the Fed is trying to do is trying to replace the loss in the balance sheet of most homeowners when they saw the price of their homes collapse after the Great Recession. So to the extent that QE3 pushes up housing prices, it'll make the consumer's balance sheet a little bit more positive, and it might encourage some of the folks are sitting on the sidelines waiting for home prices to stop falling to enter the market.
Well, and especially with rates, because with the Fed buying
Right.
mortgage backs, we talked about 2 weeks ago on a webcast, is that it dropped overall mortgage rates about 10 basis points.
Right.
So when you look at that, people might be more willing, but at least we're starting to see a more positive trend happening.
Absolutely, and I think in terms of policy for banks, if you can in any way increase the resources you have to the refi department, more staff, more advertising, more longer hours in that department, I would urge you to do it. I think we still have another quarter point to wring out of the fixed rate mortgage next few
So
months.
people need to not only refinance, but to build houses.
That would be the best outcome.
Well, as always, Dr. Ed, thank you for joining me this week. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew.
Dr. Ed, and I look forward to our ALCO committee report coming up in November. Thank you.